everyone. Today we're going to be geographers again. Can you remember what geographers do? That's right, they learn about places and find out what they're like. Before we go to the main part of the lesson, let's have a quick recap. Can you remember what this map is showing? What part of the world is it showing? That's right, it's the United Kingdom. Can you remember how many countries are in the United Kingdom? Yes, there's 4. And the country that we live in is called, yes, England. Now, if you're really good, you might remember the name of the capital city of England. I've marked it on the map with a dot. What's the name of the capital city of England? Have you got it? Yes, it's London. And today's lesson, we're going to learn all about London and what London is like. Can you remember what a city is? That's right, it's a place that has lots of buildings, lots of different kinds of buildings. So London is very busy and it has hundreds and thousands of buildings. It's a really big city, much bigger than the city of Derby where we live. So today I'm going to show you some photographs of buildings and places that you would see if you visited London. So you start to get an idea of what London is like. And hopefully you will remember some of the names of the buildings and places because I'm going to do a little quiz at the end. So here's the first place in London I'm going to show you. It's a very famous place. Some of you might have been on it. Do you know it? That's right, it's called the London Eye. It's a really big wheel shaped like an eye, that's where the name comes from, and it's got lots and lots of pods that you can actually get into and have a ride. It goes round very slowly. You have a ride going round all the way once, and whilst you're there you get a really good view of the City of London because at the top you're very high up. So that's the London Eye, remember that one. Have you noticed that there's water in front here? Do you know what this water is called that goes through London? It's a river, it's not a sea, it's a river. So the river that goes through London is called the River Thames. So try and remember that as well. The London Eye is next to the River Thames. Here's the next one. Oh, now this is a big building. It's a home. Somebody lives there. It's got very big gates in the front and there's lots of visitors in front, tourists who have come to visit London to look at this building because a very famous person lives there. Do you know who lives there? That's right, it's our Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. And the name of her home, it's a palace, and it's called Buckingham Palace. That's right. And the flag is flying on the roof, so that means she must be in. When this photograph was taken, she must have been there. So Buckingham Palace. Now, I'm sure lots of you have seen photographs of this or visited it. It's a huge tower with a clock. And you can see the River Thames again in front of it. What's the name of the clock? That's right, Big Ben. That's an easier one to remember. Big Ben. And next to Big Ben, there's a very long building. You can still see the river in front. And this is where the government of England meet to decide lots of things. And these are called the Houses of Parliament. So there's lots of offices and rooms in there. So the Houses of Parliament. Now another big building. This is a kind of church, but a very big church. It's got a beautiful window at the front with lots of beautiful patterns, quite a few towers, and lots of different kings and queens have got married here over the years. This is called Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey. Some quite difficult names to remember. Here's another very famous church, a very big church in London. Can you see the cross on the top? And it's got a huge dome, very famous dome. And this is St Paul's Cathedral, St Paul's Cathedral. We've got a cathedral in Derby, not quite as big as this one though. Now, big tower here. There's lots of offices where people go to work in this building. It's a very strange shape. Can't imagine how many windows are in that tower. This is called the Shard. The Shard. Because it's like a pointy piece of glass. I think that's where the name comes from, like a shard of glass. Another strange shaped building. Again, it's got lots of offices in there where people go to work. This is called the Gherkin because of its strange shape, shaped like a gherkin. A very, very famous bridge. It's got 2 towers each side, and the River Thames is underneath, although you can't see it very well in this picture. So lots of boats have to go through here, but if they're tall boats, they would hit the top. So it opens up for tall boats. And this is called Tower Bridge because of the 2 towers each side. Now, if you go to London on the train, you would arrive in London at this railway station. It's a very beautiful building with a big clock. Do you know the name of it? It's called St Pancras. So like the church was called St Paul's Cathedral, this railway station is called St Pancras. Now, this big building here has lots of towers. So it's the Tower of London, and it's very famous because it's where the Queen keeps all her jewels, her very expensive jewels. So it's guarded by lots of soldiers called beefeaters. So that's the Tower of London. In the olden days, people who had been naughty and broke the law used to be put in prison here. And my last picture, this one's a little bit further out on the edge of London, but if you're a football fan, you might have been here or seen it on television. It's called Wembley Stadium. It's a very, very big sports stadium. So they're the places that are famous in London. So let's have a little quiz now and see if we remember any of them. I know some of the names are quite difficult, but do your best. Right, let's start with, should we have some easy ones to start with? Have you got it? That's right, it's Big Ben. And can you remember what these buildings are called next to it, where the government meets? Boris Johnson goes here a lot. The Houses of Parliament. Well done if you remembered that one. Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. Let's try this one. This one's a bit easier because of its shape. The London, that's right, the London Eye. And can you remember the name of the river that's in front of it? That's right, the River Thames. Okay, famous home where the Queen lives, or one of her homes, she's got lots of them. It's a palace. you got it? Buckingham Palace. Well done if you remembered that. It's a long name. Let's try this one. Do you remember what this one is? It's where you might get to if you went on the train to London. It's a railway station. St Pancras. And talking of saints, let's have a look at one of the famous big churches. The one with the dome. St Paul's. Well done if you remembered that. St Paul's Cathedral. And while we're on churches, do you remember the name of this one? It's an abbey. Westminster Abbey. Well done if you got that one. What about the bridge? That's quite an easy one to remember because it's got two of them. The name of the bridge is Tower Bridge. Well done. And another building with the word tower in its name, where the Queen keeps her jewels. The Tower of London. Ooh, what's left? What about this one? Where you might go and watch a football match. It's actually got the name here, look, although you can't see the first letter very well. That's right, Wembley Stadium. And the last two, these are the ones where they're big tall buildings, like many of the ones in London, where people go to work. Their offices are here. This one's called the Gherkin. And the last one, the Shard. Very well done. How many did you get right? Well done. So you can have a go at doing that quiz again another time to see if you can still remember the names. And remember, these are all places in London. Thank you for listening.